True.
John Marsh is feeling great.
Feeling great.
And so is Hannah with her red T-shirt on. Are we going to tell the story of the red T-shirt at some point this morning and have a lot of fun?
Yeah, we might have to get into that. I'm scared.
Hey, last night was the Boone County Lincoln Days. It was a fabulous event, really a packed house, and we'll be reprising that as well. Sadly, one of the speakers mentioned that we lost a police officer up in Independence, Missouri. A sad story there.
And court personnel, the person who served it, they were serving an eviction, and the person, I think 2 others were actually injured, and 2 people died. I mean,
another example of just people going crazy. You're angry, so you pull out a gun. That's just crazy.
I'm sad for all of my court personnel this morning and my law enforcement friends to know. I mean, they just showed up to do their job.
Yeah. Kevin Crane was there. We gave him a shout out.
Yeah.
Retiring Judge Kevin Crane. And Jesus Osete was there. And he said, Randy's the only guy that was glad to be named in one of his lawsuits.
I liked that. That was fun.
And that was about when we were trying to fight against a mandate for the vaccine in hospitals. They lost that one. But, the other major, I guess, at the same time, the OSHA restrictions on all employers sort of were put away. So,
Yeah, yesterday was a big local news day because we got the statement from Taylor Burks.
Yeah, no.
That he will be not running in CD3, and that makes Kurt Schaefer the only mid-mo candidate. So that was a big deal. And then at the very end, Randy, we got kind of a tease from Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich.
An announcement in 3 weeks?
That's what she said.
Holy cow, we're going to have to...
She's one of those, you never really know what's up her sleeve.
She's like, I'm not done yet. So hopefully Cherie will come on the program and make her announcement here. We would love to do that. I was kidding her when I introduced her. I said, no, she's promised me that she's going to come out of her shell. Tell us what she really thinks. And, to her credit, and, she and Vivek Malik, who was there and spoke last night, he always speaks of his immigration and the great patriotism and love he has for this country. It's very heartwarming. But, man, they have been she's been the ambassador for the unclaimed property thing, and he's made a lot of hay on that deal as far as, getting a lot of good props.
Yeah, I mean, she digs down into these particular projects and really gets stuff done, whether it's unclaimed property. She's also been kind of a champion for cleaning up voter rolls. And so I think it's refreshing that when someone talks about a problem, they actually dig down and do the work. Yeah. And she's one that you can always count on to do that.
Yeah, her talks always include the words, I'm here from the government. I really am here to help. So it was a good time. And then there was the really compare and contrast of Biden at a border crossing, and where there was 6 immigrants the day before, and of course Donald Trump was there yesterday as well, but at Eagle Pass where there's thousands every day, and the compare and contrast was really remarkable. If I was the Biden people, I would say, wow, another not good optic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's coming to a head where he's going to have to do something, but either, before the State of the Union, people are so outraged. And I know it's been a while since we saw that last poll on border, but since the death of the young girl, I mean, I think if I have not, again, I haven't seen a new poll, but I have no doubts that right now the border is top of mind. And we heard a lot about it last night. I think almost especially the candidates for the congressional races were talking about it, but even the candidates for state races. And we heard some data, and I didn't have a chance to write it all down, about how many illegal immigrants are in Missouri and how it's affecting our state. And
there was some conversation about human trafficking. What are we, number 3 here or something? It's sad, But speaking of the young nursing student down there in Athens, Georgia, the funeral will be held today. That'll be a real heartbreaking event. And but you're right. Now that the borders are open, and we're seeing since this busing and flying to various, especially metro areas like New York and Chicago and Denver is another one. I think everyone feels as though it's become sort of a GOP talking point, but it's not unfair to say every community is now a border community, really. That's the reality now. So I hope that legislators here in Missouri and leadership in the governor's office and others, Attorney General, I think they're all on top of it. A.G. Bailey talked about, we have to protect this state, because there's things we can't control, but we have to manage, and we have to have those kind of rules. Did you see where the White House has come out and said they want sanctuary cities to cooperate with ICE? Where'd that come from all of a sudden? I thought that was anathema. I thought that sanctuary city mean you can't do that. It's crazy. I mean, This is a political season, and this is the most pandering White House I've ever seen. It's so obvious. They're just 180-degree change on positions because, oh, hey, there's an election coming up. We better change it.
Politically convenient, yeah. I mean, they wanted to pay off people's student loans like 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
Now we're doing some stuff at the border. And then once they get elected, they'll go all the way back far left and make us all drive EVs.
Yeah, you're right. John Marsh, you would have gotten a kick out of it last night. And I warned Bill Igo. I know Bill from the St. Charles days when I do radio back there. I've done it for a long time. And as he was friends with Bob Onder and the crew from the Change.
Oh, yeah.
Charles.
I mean, back when they called it the Chaos Caucus.
Right, yeah. And so I warned him, and I warned Bob, too. I said, I might do a little needling when I introduce you. So when I introduced Senator Igle, I said, hey, well, I sent in my rent your property from the government receipt. I mean, you paid property tax, your property tax declaration. And I said, by the way, did you get that reserved parking spot I got for you real close to the venue? He was a good sport. He was a good sport about it.
I almost thought you were going to ask him if we were going to get good Bill or bad Bill.
That was on the short list of what to do.
You know what we did get? We got fired up Bill. And I even talked to him last time because after he's usually fired up. But the last time he came on this show, he was a little bit more subdued. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that to him at Lincoln Days, and he said, oh, it's early or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we got fired up Bill last night.
Wow. Holy cow.
Well, you had Bob Onder trying to put the doctor in a headlock.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, John, you didn't hear what Randy said about Dr. Bob.
So when I was an intern, Bob was a third-year medical student and at WashU, and so I was on the OB rotation, and Bob, very affable guy, and I mean, you talk about a real scholar and just an eager beaver to learn. He's an excellent student and a physician. But anyway, so I thought, okay, what can I do to sort of have fun with Bob? And I said, everyone should be very, very happy, thankful that Bob is an allergy and immunologist. I should have said they're the smartest. They're among the smartest people in the room. The allergy people, the dermatologists, the eye people. They're really the smart guys, along with the internist and the cardiologist. And I said, but I'm really glad he went into that field because, when I was teaching him how to do a circumcision, it turned out he actually turned that into the first bottom surgery in the history of transition.
Randall.
And I got a great shot of him face palming. Oh my gosh.
But he's a good sport, and he gave a rousing talk too. Bob does a good talk. All the candidates, for the most part, stayed within their prescribed time of 3 minutes. Tony Lupo had his, what do you call it, the best sport? Well, he calls soccer the best sport, right?
Yeah, he had a yellow.
Yellow
card and a red card
with
as well.
30 seconds left. And the red card, I brought out a referee's jersey. I said, "Well, look, if I have to call delay of game and blow the whistle, that's a bad thing." So we had fun.
Yeah, and then I think the other news last night is who wasn't there, and I think one person that people were really expecting was Senator Caleb Rowden.
He was on the agenda to be there.
He didn't make an appearance. So I don't know if we should be reading anything into that or if there was some sort of snafu last night, but certainly. To miss the Lincoln Days of your home, it's bizarre to say.
And Chuck Basie spoke in his behalf.
He did. It caught people's attention that Senator Rowden was not there. I will tell you that people did. Certainly, I heard it discussed. Two main observation, guys. And again, I was always taught I try to find angles of stories that and I know Rudy Keller was there from the Independent. Rudy does a really nice job. I've competed against him, but also we have a good friendship. And he's going to have a lot of stuff in the Independent, and I'll have some stuff as well. But two things stick out to me. Number one, Lisa Meyer, the Columbia City Council candidate, she looked out at that crowd and said only 12% of people are voting in municipal elections. She looked at the crowd and said, if you are not voting, you are part of the problem.
Yep.
Huge ovation for her.
She did.
I thought she had one of the best speeches.
It was a great speech.
Honestly, I asked a friend, I said, what's her phone number? We need to get her on the show, and hopefully we can do that.
It was really compelling.
It really was.
And the unions are dumping a lot of money in that race on behalf of the other guy who is from the laborers union. So I thought that was, again, that's going to be a very interesting race. And the other thing, guys, that stuck out to me is General Bailey, when he spoke and he was the keynote speaker, he talked for Bryce Beal. He gave Bryce in his office, really said he's a bright young conservative in his office. They respect each other. I saw them shake hands, but John Martin really, he didn't lash out at Beal, but basically said Beal is not from Boone County, is not from Columbia. He grew up in Illinois. You don't normally hear that in a something like that, but again, there are some differences. But I did see them shake hands. But those are the two things that stuck out. Last but not least, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman. She was a little late because she had come from Mary's County. They had their event as well. Senator Elizabeth Coleman said that she had numerous death threats, that the police had to be outside her door because she sponsored the pro-life bill. She said they found out where her kids went to school, that the police had to be. That's never been reported before. I've never heard that. And she gave her cell phone number. I'm not going to give it out here on the air, but she gave it to the crowd because she wants people to be able to talk to her. I thought that was, I've never seen a politician do that in an event.
I thought it was courageous, and I told her so publicly. And you know what? She said this is related to, there must already be what she alleges are false claims made by other candidates about her or by other campaigns. Because she said, I'm giving you my phone number so that if you hear something that just doesn't sound like Mary Elizabeth Coleman, give me a call and I'll straighten it out. That's the way I took that.
Yeah, I did too, and I'd have no idea what she's referring to.
I don't know what she's referring to.
And I don't know, and again, I've known Senator Elizabeth Coleman for a long time. When she first got elected to the House, she describes herself as a mom, and she's been on our show before, so I don't know what she's referring to, but that's what stuck out. But Lisa Meyer, I'm telling you, that is someone who, and no offense to any of the other candidates, they all were very, each one brings their own men and women that spoke, and there was a representative from Senator Hallways there too. But Lisa Meyer, to me, gave the most dynamic speech of the night. And it was for Columbia City Council, but chastising people, and we have a lot of them in our audience. I've heard them call in and say it's a waste of my vote to show up. She said, you are part of the problem.
And don't forget, we had a race here, tie on the nose.
That's right.
That's right.
What was it? It was like 1,612 to 1,612.
Yes,
That's right.
In my ward, the third ward, and Roy Lovelady and Carl Scala, and both more on the progressive end, but what they both agree, and they're correct. I've reported as well. It's the poorest ward in the city, and some people just did not get out and vote. We heard from some of them, but yes, every vote counts. And Shane Scholler talked about that. There was a House race, Betsy Fogel's race. He didn't mention her by name. That was decided by less than 100 votes, and
they hand counted.
He called both candidates, called both parties, did the count in front of everybody. And the point of the matter is, there are quotes, so every vote does count. And
I guess I have a warm spot in my heart for newcomers, for unlikelies. And I thought Chris Wright for governor. It's unlikely Chris Wright's going to be elected governor. He doesn't have a war chest. He doesn't have. But he's been at Boone last year. He was at Chili Supper. Gave a nice talk. He looked the men in the audience in the eye and say, men, you must protect the women from human trafficking. I just thought it was nice to hear.
Yeah, he's certainly working hard. The other thing that was nice was so many Wake Up family members.
Yeah,
so
it was great to see everyone.
I would love to try to name everybody that came up and that I got to talk with. It was a really fun night to because you guys get to watch us.
I know.
And so, but meeting you face to face was
Two different speeches, Stephanie. One was Joe Biden, the other Donald Trump. Where were they?
At the border.
You mean climate change? That's a major border issue, yes.
I mean, Trump was at the border where we had a problem. Biden was,
He was at
else.
another border, but, what? Climate change? What?
He has no clue what's going
Got
on.
all of this array of border patrol agents behind him, and he's talking climate change and calling those of us who, have skepticism about the whole climate change and ruin our economy for a couple, a tenth of a degree of centigrade, calling us Neanderthals.
We are, apparently.
What the heck?
That's the same as Ultra MAGA.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. You ever been to Mexico in the dead of summer? There is climate change, and I think if I was there, I'd want to come back across the border and cool off too.
Certainly want to take a siesta come around 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
But it wouldn't be the first time that the Democrats blamed all of the border problems on climate change, which I can't. I don't understand that at all. Well, while he was down at the border yesterday, Congress was hard at work trying to avoid a government shutdown. They kicked the can again, provided themselves another 3 weeks, establishing 2 additional deadlines. They've got to do certain bills by March 8th and then certain other bills by March 22nd. So we're going to have this conversation in 3 weeks.
But he is trying to fragment things, right? He's trying to bust up the whole omnibus concept, right? And get as close as we can to individual bills which can be amended more easily understood.
Which I do like. So things that they got to get done here shortly, March 8th, are like military construction, water development, the FDA, ag, commerce, justice, energy, Veterans Affairs, and more. So they've got a lot of work yet to do.
Yeah. And then just another dose of the same kind of thing, but in a different departments a couple weeks later.
That's right. Now, if you're a high income earner, we heard yesterday from the IRS that they're going to launch a crackdown of wealthy non-filers. So
Hannah,
beware.
IRS is coming for you.
I think I'm safe.
All right. Hey, that's it. What happened? We're out of time. What are we having such a great time on Feel Good Friday? about the caucus tomorrow? Tomorrow morning is the caucus for the presidential preference among GOPers, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when?
I think it starts at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.,
You
right.
could have pre-registered. If you didn't pre-register, I think you need to be registered by 10 o'clock. And if you go to mogop.org on the Republican side, there's lots of information about how to participate in your caucus. Of course, the Democrats are having their own, and I know Brianna Lennon on Boone County Clerk, if you're in Boone County, has a lot of information there if you want to participate in that one.
So we have another event coming up. So you can do the caucus tomorrow and then set aside an hour 3 or 4 for the Como Man Show next week. That's going to be on the night. Boy, that really crept up on us, Hannah. The Man Show again. That means it's a lot of fun because I always enjoy it. There's so many booths there and prize drawings as well.
Well, and I'm really excited because it's in a new location this year. It's at the Boone County Fairgrounds.
Fun.
And we have more space and we can offer a wider variety of booths and vendors. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know there's going to be an inflatable obstacle course or 2 set up outside. So maybe we can convince Randy and John to race through one of those.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
John, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm the guy who tore my shoulder up doing pull-ups with the Mizzou Marines. But sure, I'm game.
There you go. I like the fighting spirit there, Marsh.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
so one of the listeners came up last night and said, "Well, I was hoping you'd bring your rubber raft that you could drag out and do the Mo Man contest here."
There you go.
Hey, John, last night was it Bryce Beal that said that he had filed suit in behalf of the Missouri Attorney General's office. Wasn't it him? Anyway, someone out of that office. Maybe I know A.G. Bailey mentioned it as well. Accusing Planned Parenthood of basically trafficking abortion seekers across state lines. And you wrote about that this morning.
Yeah, it's Andrew Bailey's been very serious about that issue from get-go, more so than some of the talking points that we hear are, potential candidates hit on. But boy, he's been right in the middle of that one from the get-go.
Well, and it made national news. I know he walked in a little bit, not late. I mean, he was there for his speech, but I think he was later to the event than he wanted to because he was doing national interviews. Right. But, Project Veritas, I think caught people on video over there in the St. Louis, I think it was in the St. Louis area. And I think one of his points is, this is trafficking because at the age, I think they were talking about a 13-year-old girl.
They accused Kansas City, Missouri-based.
Oh, it's Kansas City.
Missouri-based Planned Parenthood, Great Plains, of violating Missouri law, which makes it illegal to, quote, intentionally cause, aid, or assist a minor to obtain an abortion without consent from a parent. Filed in State District Court in Columbia. Asked the court to stop Planned Parenthood from engaging in the conduct it alleges. So,
and I think you said we have to protect our young girls as well. At 13, you can't consent to that type of activity, and so also there would be mandatory reporting requirements, and it's trafficking.
Right, and
and then the whole angle I know that the general has brought up before is the interstate thing, because since there are no abortions clinics operating in Missouri, they are on the metro east side of Illinois, and that factors into it.
Yeah. And John, I know you were reporting on a story about a middle school building was evacuated with bomb dogs coming in Versailles.
Yeah, Versailles, the middle school down there yesterday morning apparently got a threat. They brought in the bomb dog. Nothing was found. Students were sent back in, but they say they have the cell phone and a person of interest identified. So,
And we should mention again that Taylor Burks bowed out of the race yesterday afternoon.
he did.
And, he, in his statement, he said, I've said before, we can't have, if we have 2 candidates from mid-Missouri running for that congressional 3rd district, it's going to dilute the vote, and we're not going to get someone to represent this area. So he fell on the sword.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. I mean, he's so young. He's got a young family. He's got a lot of time. And I think it's really rare that you see someone in politics basically put party and principle over ego and person. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of respect for Taylor in doing that. I know, I know his concern was to have a mid-Missouri congressman, and he stuck by that and said, look, we're not going to get one if I'm in the race, and so it was sad to see, I would say, but also a lot of respect for Taylor.
Yeah, and Kurt Schaefer is now in, and will be carrying the banner for Mid-Missouri representation in that race. It's going to be a really hot race. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And he was fired up last night too.
Yeah, he was. I mean, and I was happy to see that there may have been a couple of tangential, on the edge comments about other candidates, but generally people were very upbeat, very positive, very telling them about their story rather than hammering on the other.
Just wait.
Oh.
The night is young.
Yeah.
I begged everyone to please just think unity. Just think unity as best we can. And
well, they only had 3 minutes.
I know.
So, they didn't have that much time, and they wanted to spend it, especially some of them, introducing themselves to Boone County. A lot of them were at home, but.
Do you think management would allow me to produce some kind of produce some kind of like a credit card type thing? That on one side, it could have our little 93.9, could have, and KWS on one side, that would say, Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, don't speak ill of other Republicans. And on the other side, Reagan's, admonition that when you get 80% of what you want, it's a good day in government. I think if we kept those things in mind, I think it might help bring us together. No?
I've been lobbying for Wake Up merch for a long time.
Wake Up merch.
Yeah.
There was a
and
big
that could be like a debit card.
Yeah.
And if you do speak ill of someone of your own party, you have to swipe it and get fined.
There you go.
All proceeds go to my student loans.
Oh, there you go. I did have some fun ribbing Hannah last night. That was fun now.
Oh, yeah.
You took it in good stride.
I'm used to it at this point. And a couple times, one of your daughters, Sammy.
Sammy was there, too.
And she was sitting behind me, and she, poked me in the back a couple times, like, get a load of these guys. I'm like, you get used to it. You get used to it.
Yeah. She told me afterwards, she said, Hannah and I are pretty aligned on a lot of our opinions. So it was
I'm
good.
telling you, this next generation.
I'm telling you, John, this next generation. Yeah. No.
The kids these days.
These darn kids.
Yeah, well, it's their version of Woodstock all over again. I know. What else? Oh, we got to talk about the best of Columbia, too. We don't want to forget that. Every day you can vote in one of many categories of various people, places, things, services, and you can nominate your favorite once a day in each category, right? Until March 10th, through March 10th.
Yeah, so you can get in there every day. The top 5 most nominated folks in each category are the ones that move on to the final ballot. So you can write in your own candidates at this point, or several have made the ballot that you can just click the little green button that says nominate. Shamelessly, we would kindly ask you to vote for Wake Up Mid-Missouri as the best local radio show.
And Hannah is on the, what's the category? Best morning personality category.
Yeah, there's a radio personality category. So
cool.
You can get on there, and since they're still taking write-ins, you can nominate any one of us.
That's right. Well, we hope Miss Hannah does very, very well on that morning personality. That'll be super good.
I've never made the ballot before, so kind of excited.
Well, heck, we'll vote for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. We talked a lot about the initiative petition last night, too, in various ways that's out there misrepresenting what this proposed constitutional amendment on this petition. And you might be, if you've been out and about in the Boone County area, Columbia area, everywhere area, I mean, Jefferson City, I'm sure you've been accosted by one of the signature gatherers. And Stephanie gave a exquisite, I think, just debundling of all of the truth in there. So let's talk about that a little bit, Stephanie. You did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, we know that they're lying, right? And they are willing to lie to try to get you to sign. And so it's really important that you educate yourself. And when you were accosted outside of your exclusive membership
club, very few people are a member of this club.
I don't know. I think he might have accosted this person back, it sounds like.
They came up to you and they said, that once you were like, I don't want to sign, they're like, it's 16 weeks. Now, I mean, you're the doc. Talk about it uses the term fetal viability, and that's pretty much a medically understood term.
And we're looking at Roe, like 23 weeks. Yeah, Roe. I mean, there are very rare exceptions, and those, 22 weeks and a half maybe, but I mean, it's very rare. 23 weeks that's Roe.
Well, but the measure goes way beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says that for example, in Ohio had a measure. It said after that point at 23 weeks that the legislature could come in and prohibit abortion. Ours doesn't say that, or the Missouri one. And I say ours as in the one in our state, because it's certainly, I want no association with it. In Missouri, they chose an extreme measure that doesn't allow the legislature to prohibit after 23 weeks. It just says they regulate after 23 weeks. And in any event,
that's the key.
In any event, if you have a healthcare professional, not a physician, not a surgeon necessarily, a healthcare professional, say that you are experiencing physical health issues or mental health issues. Basically, if you can get a doctor's note, you can get an abortion up until the moment of birth. And that exception basically carves out the ability for the legislature to really do much. And it says they can't in any way even delay an abortion. So all of the things that we've had before, like a 24-hour waiting period, something that would require you to consume information about the very serious procedure you're about to have. They're going to come in and argue that, well, that's a delay. And, constitutionally, you can't do anything to even delay someone's right to an abortion. And so it's terrifying. And what we're seeing in other states, in Ohio and in Michigan, if that measure, so they need to get it on the ballot. So the first thing to know is don't sign the thing.
Decline to sign.
Tell everyone don't sign this thing. But if it qualifies, what we've seen in other states where it qualified for the ballot and then passed, they take it into their legislature first and say, now you've got to repeal all of your pro-life laws.
Kind of makes you wonder about if all the mayhem with the Democratic filibuster over the issue, what was it, last week, may have fueled some of that anger towards Senator Coleman.
I wonder.
Oh, maybe that's what she was talking about last night. I know. I mean, and when she was talking about the threats, she's received a lot of it. I think she was talking, a little bit about pro-life issues.
Yeah.
And so...
And back in the day,
in the middle of it from the get-go.
When the absolute ban was, she was a big part of driving that.
I think she was a sponsor of one of those very first bills, and that's when the threats actually started. So we need to decline to sign, but in places like Michigan, I think their legislature actually passed laws to repeal a lot of stuff. I don't think Missouri's legislature is going to do that, but what they will do is these pro-abortion extremists will run into court and get the courts to try to invalidate all of our pro-life laws on the books. And it's not only the pro-life laws that protect human life, it's protections for women's health and parental rights. The bill or the proposed measure says any person, can obtain an abortion. So that means a minor.
Yep.
And that would, if, parental consent and notification could cause delay. So I fully expect them to argue that, there can be no parental consent.
we're going to, from time to time, bring to the morning show that is a legacy from the afternoon show called The Doctor's In. Helene will join us. We'll talk about some stuff. If you're wondering about, should I fast, should I not fast? Should I keto, should I not keto? When should I eat? What should I eat? How should I eat? Okay, we're going to talk about some diet stuff. She's got that.
I'm feeling triggered.
Yeah? Why?
Because summer's coming up. I walked into Target yesterday and saw swimsuits.
Oh, okay. So
maybe,
last week I was in the same boat. I walked in the store, saw swimsuits out, and dang it, guys.
John,
the Target Tuck swimsuits, was it?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
not
no.
again.
Oh, boy. John. Well, Dave Griffith is going to join us at 7:35. There's some veterans legislation moving through the Capitol, so through the House there. So we'll talk about him and see what Griff is up to. So yeah, let's do that. Now about these cameras, this is interesting. From time to time, the issue of some people say invading your privacy, others say a great law enforcement tool percolates to the surface, and it turns out that Fulton, I guess, is contemplating they unanimously did approve an agreement to acquire cameras to identify vehicles connected with crime reports. So, for instance, in stolen vehicle type issues, this would help. Purpose said Police Chief Bill Ladwig. The purpose is basically their license plate readers. They're also a technology you can pick out the shapes of taillights. So say we're looking for a Honda Civic. That camera system would be able to tell us which Honda Civic just went through the area based on the shape of taillight lens. John, is there anything in Jefferson City? Because I don't think there's any in Columbia that I know of.
Yeah, Cole County already takes part in that data sharing program because the commissioner, they're called, I guess the name brand, they call them Flock cameras. And I know there's some in Cole County. I think Callaway County has some. And Bill Ladwig pointed out in his interview with our news partner, ABC 17, that Westminster already has some cameras, and they were able to track down somebody who'd fired off a gun thanks to those cameras.
I know. He said that. I thought, wow. You wonder if these aren't going to proliferate like rabbits, because I think people are just skittish about now no community is really immune from, either crimes against, property or people. And at least this might give law enforcement a better handle earlier on to get the perps.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're finding people.
Well, the other side of it is, like you said, the personal privacy angle. A lot of folks out there don't want any part of license plate reader cameras or, the additional technology that throws in. But heck, there's so many Ring doorbell cameras now with that whole thing. And I know that was something that Chief Ladwig, had talked about, one of those community efforts to be voluntarily allowed to link into some of that video from folks to help them solve crimes.
Yeah, in 2022, it was reported that the Boone County Sheriff's Office used the readers to do 40 misdemeanor charges.
through the Target, walk through the Dillards, look at online, and with things coming up in swimsuit time soon, everyone wants to get in shape, wants to lose some of that Christmas weight, right? Helene joins us now. Helene Tobler, who's a holistic nutritionist, culinary expert, and my wife. How you
And a
doing?
saint.
And a saint.
Oh, saint.
She is
Not
a saint.
True. I am not.
For putting up with Randall.
Oh, come on.
It's true. It's true.
Not true.
I'm a hard guy to manage. I'm a management issue. There's no doubt about that.
It's all good.
All right, so you wanted to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, this diet, keto, that, whatever, because a lot of questions. Those are always swirling. But I think for those of you out there who might be concerned, before we get to that, who might be concerned about your long-term cognitive health, as we talk about Joe Biden every day, and it is sad to watch his deterioration. So you wonder, is that in my future? Right. What can I do to prevent it?
Not only that, you see people, we've seen people in our lives, that are older, our relatives that are not doing well. So what should you do? Okay, so there's a thing called a mini mental state exam. It's 11 questions, and it basically tests your cognition. It's been in existence for a long time. Orientation, attention, language skills, and questions like what year or season is it? What state do we live in? Here's 7 things. Put the 7 things away. Can you recall the 7 things? Give me 3 things. And then 4 or 5 questions later say, okay, those 3 things. Tell me what those 3 things are, okay?
And that's what Donald Trump did so well at during the 2020 campaign. Remember, Mark Siegel said that he had done that, and they had an interview with him. He said he remembered them all.
So here's my thing. Okay, so as far as Joe Biden, you can't make them do it. We all know what's going on. We can't do a thing about him. What we can do is for ourselves and for our loved ones. Okay, so as far as our loved ones, our grandma, our grandpa, yes, you can get them in for that test, and it'll help them. But I struggle with something, personally. I struggle with the fact, okay, maybe I'm forgetting something, but I don't want to know if I possibly have the signs of Alzheimer's. I don't know if anybody else out there feels the same way. Do you want to know? Do you want to have those biomarkers? You can find out those biomarkers, but you know what those biomarkers do? You're not necessarily going to get Alzheimer's. And you are very, I don't know, like, is this the beginning? If I find out I have a biomarker, is this the beginning of that? You'll be stressed out all the time.
Hypochondriac,
that's
too,
just
probably.
not. Yeah, that's just. I don't know. Some people want to find that out. Me personally, no, I don't want to find it out. But what you can do is everything what you can do is what you can do in prevention, and that's what I'm about.
And let's talk about those genetic tests and so forth that can be done.
Yeah, that's tough.
So there's a gene that is so-called the Alzheimer's gene called ApoE. It codes for a protein called ApoE. And there are various forms of that. And if you have one form, you have a little higher risk of getting, and it's different with genders, late or early onset Alzheimer's. But when you tell that to people, and they may have gotten a test that as part of a battery of tests, maybe they were told a relative had it, now they're concerned. But to say that the APO4 gene type is found in 50 to 60% of Alzheimer's victims doesn't mean that everyone that's has that gene is going to get it. It's a risk factor.
I agree with Helene. I do not want to know.
You don't want to know.
And I wonder, do you guys, text us and let us know. Are you in camp? I have to know everything or not? I think the added anxiety would cause me more health problems.
I would have heart. And we do ask our patients that. Do you want to know? Do you want to know some of the biomarkers?
And in an environment when we really don't have an effective either prevention or cure for Alzheimer's, you may not want to. But since there are other things that influence your cognitive abilities as you go on, and they're the same thing that influence your risk for heart disease and stroke and peripheral vascular disease, managing your diabetes, managing your cholesterol levels, managing your blood pressure, looking at your inflammatory status. There's a test out there called a CRP that can give you a general sense of how inflamed are you. Are you taking good care of your teeth and gums, things that you can do.
Right.
Well, and I think about it too in the context of women in breast cancer. And I know certain women who have had, the tests are getting better and better, and they've had a family history, and they said, you know what, we're just going to have the surgery now because I don't want to have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And we're just
it's a constant worry.
if if I was in that same situation, I'd been close in my family and I had been,
Right.
deeply affected, my opinion might be a little bit different. I have been affected by Alzheimer's. I know I've got lots of people in and around, but that one, there's, the test isn't as good.
No.
And,
No.
and what can you do to prevent it?
No. Well, as far as preventing, I'm all about the food.
Healthy.
Okay. So, but there's this thing called a MIND diet, Mediterranean Dash Intervention.
The mind diet.
Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay Diet. Okay. So there was a study in Rush in Chicago, and it was a long-term study, started in 1997, and then it went on to 2015. And they did the study of people 60 years old and older, and they were following somewhat this diet. And the diet includes cold water fish, berries, just good eating, drinking wine 5 days a week. This is what. But
That's a good one.
But then stay 5 ounces a day, so not a huge amount. But then staying away
5 ounces is not a bad serving
staying
of
away
wine.
from processed foods. Well, guess what happened with these people? They had younger brains, they had higher cognition scores, and they did post-mortem autopsies on their brains. Guess what? A lot of them didn't have Alzheimer's that had the amyloid plaques and taut tangles. So I am not a fan of saying, okay, I got the biomarker.
That was one of the big things that we attended a gerontology conference several years ago, and there's an association between these sort of buildup of little protein buildup areas called amyloid plaques in your and taut tangles in your brain, and that was thought to be sort of a big deal. That let's get a medicine that reduces those, and that'll take care of reducing Alzheimer's risk. Well, it turns out that that may not be the whole story there, and because just reducing those plaques doesn't necessarily reduce that.
I think John's got a question.
John?
Yeah, Helene, I've got a friend who's in law enforcement, and he's kind of into what, I don't know, we call it a craze, the all-protein / high-protein diet. Your thoughts on that? And I guess if you're getting away from processed carbs, it couldn't be a bad thing, right?
I'm all about a balanced diet. I mean, I've personally done every single diet that is on this planet. I've done
true.
them all. I've starved myself. The Beyonce diet, I've done it since the time I was very young. I was overweight. I think the best thing to do is a balanced diet. Eating good protein, but then balance it with high fiber carbohydrates in the form of cruciferous vegetables,
The colorful fruits, the
ancient
green
grain,
leafies.
green
yeah.
leafies.
So I think the thing, John, that I would tell your friend is, proteins are important, but we know vegans that are Ironman triathletes because they're eating a clean, plant-based, plant-predominant diet. We're certainly not, I don't think veganism, it's not for me. I think most people find it very difficult to stay on for the long term.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast recently, and it's kind of been my Roman Empire. I can't stop thinking about it. It was Mark Zuckerberg, and he's like, money is no issue for me, so I want to eat high protein, and so I decided I'm just going to make the protein myself. So I got some cows, and he said, you need to fatten them up quickly and with good food, and so he feeds the cows beer and I think he said beer, but I think maybe hops because that makes them eat a lot and macadamia nuts.
Okay, well,
and I'm thinking
macadamia
Happiest
nuts.
cows in the pasture.
There you go.
Well, it's definitely true that those cultures across the world that have the highest percentage of the longest living people, they were featured in the blue zones. They eat a predominantly plant-based diet. They're moving
that sounds miserable.
Well, no, I mean it's not.
No,
they have their.
No, you have to have your meat. I'm sorry.
No.
Don't ever
They're
knock out the
omnivores.
meat in life. Oh. But go ahead.
Well, what would your advice be for people who maybe don't like a whole lot of veggies? The greens supplements are popular right now that you mix with water.
Okay.
I've taken veggie capsules before.
Okay.
You don't
but
get-
they're kind of expensive.
You don't get the fiber with that. Fiber, and we're seeing increasing rates of colon cancer. I'm speculating here. I don't think anyone knows why. There's probably not one answer, but fiber is important. Your colon loves fiber. It helps foods move quicker through the colon. It's soothing to the colon. transit time through the colon is very important so that you don't get the byproducts and the potential toxins in contact with the lining of the colon. That's one reason. Right. Fiber helps retard absorption of fats and sugars as well.
Right.
You don't get that with the veggie in a capsule supplement. It's better than nothing, but eating the whole thing is what you need to do.
But Hannah, I would like to have a cuisine
Listen,
time with you.
Listen to Mama. Listen to Mama.
Truly. I mean,
this is what Randy's been telling me too.
I did not used to be a veggie fan like I am now. My thing is looking through cookbooks. I know some people look through TikTok or whatever they do. I read cookbooks and recipes all night. That's what I do. And there's so many cool things you can do with so many vegetables. I bet I could find a green vegetable you like prepared a different way. I bet. So it's just, if you could just, like cauliflower. Do you like cauliflower? That's a cruciferous vegetable.
No, it tastes like farts to me.
Okay.
Like,
Even
I don't know how else to describe it.
Hannah just told us she knows what fart tastes like. We're gonna have to, we got to talk about that. But maybe on What's Hot with Hannah, let's talk about that when we come up.
Okay.
No, but someone texted, what about the carnivore diet?
I was going to ask about this as well.
It's a way of, here, I'm reading right off of the ancestralsupplements.com, a carnivore. It's a way of eating that keeps things simple, focusing on animal products and removing carbs, veggies. Ladies and gentlemen, the overwhelming evidence is if you focus on animal products, you're not going to be as healthy as those people over the long term who focus on a predominantly plant-based diet, a predominantly diet. I'm not saying you shouldn't have protein on your plate. You do.
Okay, we were on the page 10
on
years ago.
the paleo diet.
We were there. We were Mr. and Mrs. Carnivore. But guess what happens long term? I'm not even talking health. You just burn out when all you do is protein. We did that for, I don't know, 5 years.
What happens on these diets, the paleo, the carnivore?
You have to have something you're going to maintain over the long haul. And having a balanced diet is going to do it for you. You're not going to burn out on that.
Yeah. These diets just reduce your caloric intake. It's just another way of doing that. That's, if you look at these diets, the high protein fills you up quicker. You get earlier satiety. You're not as hungry, so you don't eat as much.
Well, and Catherine on the texter is recommending like adding veggies into a fruit smoothie, which I have done before.
That's cool.
I'm always disappointed though when I go to log the calories for my smoothies.
Ooh, yeah.
And they're really high in calories.
Yeah, the smoothies is a tough one because of the sugar.
I have a veggie tray that I do with my kids, and it sits in the fridge constantly, and it gets refilled, and it comes out for every meal. And you would not believe, like one of my 6 or 7-year-old now eats raw celery, no dressing, nothing.
Great.
And I'm not
Stephanie,
trying to
that's wonderful.
I'm not trying to brag. My mother-in-law serves raw veggies at every meal, and I always thought it was kind of weird, and then I realized actually no. And so if you're hungry, eat some veggies. And they eat them.
We were reading the Standard American Diet with Sean, our son,
the oldest kid, a poor kid.
And then a bunch of things changed, and we became just, tried to be as healthy as we could. And you have the secret. If you introduce it early to the kids, make it an expectation that that's what this family eats, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And you know what? If everyone did that in our society, it would be a society changer. Right. Absolutely.
We bought into the chicken McNuggets and everything with our oldest kid, who's almost 37.
My kids eat plenty of chicken nuggets.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we thought. Oh, poor Sean, he's not getting his chicken. What were we? And Juicy Juice. We thought that was the best thing they could ever drink. That's baloney too.
We had so much to talk about, but we're out of time.
Oh,
can you give a quick tip for people who like to fry fish and like to maybe get some cod and fry it? You have a way of doing it that is a little healthier.
Yes,
and it tastes
healthier.
Great. Real quickly.
You take cod
because Hannah's time is coming up.
It's frozen. Make sure it's not frozen anymore. It's thawed. And totally take a paper towel and make sure all of the water is drenched out of it.
Dry it out.
Okay, and then dredge it in a little bit of smoked paprika and cornstarch, a tablespoon of olive oil, and then sear it on both sides. And it is
crispy, a
it's
thin,
good.
light coating. It is not like have a little fish with your breading. It tastes great. That's great. Okay, Tim says beans are the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Well, thank you, Tim. That's great. You and Hannah can have a So, who was it who has, one of our candidates has twins?
Fawn. We've got Mayor Fitzwater coming in and Congressman Luke DeMeyer. So it will be a big day on Monday, and we will have guest co-host Casey Burns. But now we are glad to be joined by Representative Dave Griffith from the House of Representatives. Now, a lot has been going on in the Capitol, at least on the House side, and it's hard to really keep up. Representative Griffith, welcome in.
Well, good morning. Glad to be with you this morning.
All right. So, the Senate caught a little bit of flack, I think, from the Secretary of State last night about how a lot of things that he wanted to get done were passing through the House, but not a lot ends up in the Senate. And I think as a House member, if I was in your situation, certainly I think I'd get frustrated. But, your big issues have been veterans issues. So tell us what's on the move in the House for veterans this year.
Well, Stephanie, and thanks for that question. I had, at the beginning of the session, I pre-filed 7 veteran bills, and I'm proud to say that 6 of those bills have been heard in committee. Most all of those have been exec'd out. This past week, we passed the House Bill 1495, which was my veteran suicide bill. It passed 157 to 0. That's happened on a few of my veteran bills in the House, but I really would encourage your listeners, if they want to hear what testimony is like and what it can be like on the House of Representatives floor, to go back and listen to that dialogue that we had. There was one point in time there, Stephanie, that you could have heard a pin drop on the floor. Representative Mike Hafner told a story about a real good friend of his, an admiral that committed suicide, and it was a very emotional speech that he gave, and I know I had tears in my eyes just listening to it. So, but I think a lot of us have been impacted by suicide in one way or another with friends of ours. But in the veteran community right now, we're looking at a rate of 45.2% per 100,000 veterans commit suicide compared to 23.8% of the civilian population. So we've got an issue there. It's a crisis, and I think we're trying to address that on the House side. I'm confident that something's going to get done on the Senate side.
Griff, you've done, like you said, you've got 7 veterans bills out there. One of them, I think it's kind of flown under the radar that you talked to us early in the session about, was one dealing with custody and visitation for parents who've been deployed.
Yeah, that bill, this is the 3rd year if I filed that particular bill. And one thing that happens when parents get divorced and one is serving in the military and they get deployed, there's very little time to work out a custody agreement in the courts. Generally, it takes 2 weeks to a month to get that done. Sometimes when your orders come in, you have to leave within a week after that. This protects the parents of the child that's in custody, that has custody with their ex. The horror stories that I've heard over time in the last 3 years have been just they're just awful. I mean, there's some stories where parents have actually taken their kids and moved out of state and hid their kids from their ex. And this actually gives the deployed parent some time to be able to work out if they want to have the grandparents have joint custody, or if they want to have their aunt, their brothers or sisters, or a good friend. That can all be arranged beforehand, before they're deployed. And, John, the last thing that we want for our deployed military is to have to worry about what's going home with their kids, with their ex. So,
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate you joining us. In fact, the question John asked about, and you referred to, the official name of that, folks, is the Uniform Deployed Parents Custody and Visitation Act. It's Chairman Griffith's bill. It's House Bill 1494. It's actually scheduled to be voted on in committee on Tuesday, and as the chairman mentioned, there's no opposition to that on the committee. We do expect that to pass. Mr. Chairman, the veterans bills notwithstanding, and they have been, you're right, very bipartisan, and they almost all pass unanimously, which is huge, and we do report on those. There is still a lot of gridlock, and in both chambers, and the Democrats fight amongst themselves. They wouldn't let one of their state representatives file as a Democrat this week. We've reported on that. They're upset with her, Sarah Unsicker. On the Republican side, we know there's been infighting. And last night at Lincoln Days, I thought one of the most interesting comments, there's a state representative candidate. Stephanie was there and heard him say it, handed it as well. A guy named John Martin, who was from Pro Pumping here in Columbia. In full disclosure, he's one of our advertisers, but the crowd erupted in laughter, and I wrote it down. He said, our theme is you dump it, we pump it. You dump it, we pump it. And he said that needs to be done at the Capitol, that he's willing to go down there, take a couple of his trucks, and dump basically the crap out of the cap. And basically, that's what he said. They didn't use it, but more or less that was implied. The audience laughed their tails off when he said that, but it clearly resonated. Is he right?
Well, that is kind of funny. I did meet John Martin during the filing day there at the Secretary of State's office, and he's a veteran as well.
Yes.
So a really good man. I don't think that would fit well with the Capitol Police, of them dumping that stuff on the Capitol. But there is a lot of stuff that goes on there, a lot of nonsense stuff that goes on that can be frustrating for some. I really see it in the 6 years I've been there. I see that as part of the process. Some of that is posturing. A lot of that, especially this time of year, is with an election year. These are campaign sidebar notes that they're trying to make, but there is some truth in what he's saying, though.
Now, I know, so as you know, we're celebrating a Feel Good Friday, so we always want to give people something to feel good about. Now, yesterday, and this is making national news, Missouri House passes property tax cut aimed at offsetting surge in vehicle values. And whenever we talk about property taxes, people are angry and frustrated. So tell us about what happened yesterday in the House.
Well, during COVID, a lot of things happened during COVID, but one of the things that did happen was that the inflated value of used trucks in particular, where trucks normally and all vehicles normally depreciate over a period of time. Well, during COVID, some of those vehicles actually appreciated and became worth more. So the Representative McGurl's bill that he passed yesterday is really a course correction on that, to try and get back to where it was before, to reduce it by 33.3%, I think is what it was. And I think part of the debate on the floor was from the Democrat side of the aisle was this is going to go on forever and ever. I don't think that's the case. I think that we look at personal property tax, and we want to have some. We all want to get rid of it, but if we want to get rid of it, we got to find something that's going to replace it. It's just too important a tax for us to completely eliminate. But that was what Representative McGurl's bill was about.
We are talking with State Representative Dave Griffith.
Griff, you've talked to us before about your time in the service when you were in Special Forces in the U.S. Army, and you have a little unique take on the whole border crisis situation, I think, because of your service when you were stationed in the Panama Canal Zone and all. What's your take on some of the bills being discussed even in the Missouri General Assembly reference border issues?
Well, I think that now that we're involved in it, now that we got our National Guard down there and the State Highway Patrol down there as well, I think we've got a vested interest in it as a state. And I hear from a lot of my constituents. I'm going through my emails this morning, and I've got 5 that are in my email box right now that are talking about that same thing, about getting rid of, not allowing influence to come into the country. Now we're seeing them come into Missouri as well. Most of them are being. I think I saw on Fox News last week that there was a busload that arrived in somewhere in Southern California, and they interviewed where they were going to be going. And many were going to Chicago, some going to New York, some going to up to the northwest part of the country. So these people that are coming in here. There's a right way and a wrong way of coming into our country, and this is not the way to do it. And we're going to pay the price for it at some point in time, but if something's got to be done immediately, and I think I just saw that Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe is down there today, as a matter of fact, on March the 1st, he's going to be down there to talk with them and meet with them. So meet with our National Guards that are down there. So it's a big concern for me.
Now, let's look forward and talk a little bit about the budget. I know I've seen headlines here recently that says you guys are behind. and that because of where spring break falls this year, that it's a little bit earlier than normal. So we've got about one more week, I think, before spring break, and so I don't know if it's the liberal news reporters who are saying, oh my gosh, Republicans are behind on the budget. If you're actually behind, if there's been any discussion about what has to happen next week before you all take a little bit of a break.
Well, actually, we got 2 weeks before we go into spring break.
Okay, two.
But,
all right.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I talked with Cody Smith yesterday, as a matter of fact, and Cody addressed our caucus on Monday. We are right at the very end of our of the budget process, and so for those of you that know, we actually started budget meetings in December, which is really a far take from what we have been before. We did that in an effort to try and get a jump on it to where we wouldn't be in a position where we're scrambling at the last minute. Many of us were kind of frustrated that the governor didn't have his state of the state until a week later than what he normally does. That also pushes back what we can do until we have to hear his address. So, but I think we're on track to get it out before spring break. That's my hope, and I know that's Cody Smith's hope as well. I think we're doing a good job. Our big concern is with all the chaos that's going on over in the Senate, that we've got to get the budget passed. And that's something if we don't pass anything else, that's the most important thing that we're going to do. I think Missourians can be proud that we have a balanced budget.
Certainly. Well, is there anything mid-Missouri specific that you're hoping that makes it in the budget?
Well, we're looking at parking garages in Jefferson City. Parking is always an issue. I hear that on your all show all the time.
Yep.
We're looking at actually beginning a conversation on that to where we might be able to get some state help funding on that. We're looking at the viaduct that we've got in Jefferson City that is always a big issue for us. The tri-level, we all know how that's been going on for years and years. So there's a lot of infrastructure items that we've got trying to get through the House. But when I look at legislation that's going to benefit the 60th district, I also tried to look at how that's going to affect the rest of mid-Missouri and how it's going to affect Missouri as a whole.
Great.
I think we have to
Basically consists of eating up to 16 jars of baby food every day. They say the plan is useless, but if you feed that much to a baby, it requires a lot of embarrassing trips to the Pampers aisle at the supermarket. Cigarette diet. This came to a head in the 1920s when doctors prescribed cigarettes as a means to stave off hunger, and small wonder the entire world soon became hooked. Cotton ball diet. How about this one?
Oh, no.
They usually involve at least eating something edible. Participants required to eat up to 5 whole cotton balls a day.
Where's the doctor when you need him?
Yeah, soaked in your choice of orange or lemon juice, and doctors said this is dangerous and stupid, but
Duh.
but they're not all
I mean,
bad ones.
Really?
How about the ice cream cleanse?
Ooh.
You eat 5 pints of special ice cream a day. The brand name they're talking about only set you back $199 for 3 days. Special ice cream made from coconut cream and honey. So what do you do for dinner? You can't eat ice cream for the rest of your life. Now you know the rest of that dietary story.
I mean, there have been some weird diets. The baby food one gives me the ick, having a kid and like smelling that. Like there were meat flavored ones. Ugh. I've done some weird ones. I think I've done like juice cleanses. Hannah gives me a lot of grief when I do this like weird fasting thing. It's mainly like olives and soup.
It's not so much that I give you grief as much as I dread when you do it a little bit.
Because I'm super cranky because I am hungry.
Which, listen, I would be the same way. I get hangry just like the rest of us. But
what was the one that was popular for a number of years where they ate the cabbage soup and nothing else for days on end?
Oh, yeah. I think it was just the cabbage soup diet. And, I think all...
Big good name for it.
Wow.
Well, and there's like certain, like, I knew there was like some tea that you could brew. And I think it was like, is it dandelion tea? And it's supposed to like, I don't know, I think dehydrate you so you're more snatched. I mean, the things that we do for beauty, I'm going to...
Dehydration sounds really healthy.
I like this one. This was a clip your nose while you eat diet, where you cover your nose so you can't smell, so you're going to presumably eat less.
That's like the COVID diet.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
I like that one, and I've shared that before. Like one piece of advice that I actually do is eat like on a smaller plate, and so your eyes, like, you see a full plate, and then when you finish it, it's like, oh, but I had a full plate of food. Because your dinner kind of looks sad if you put it on a big plate and you've got just like a couple little bites on there. I think that one actually works, but I think I'm going to stick with the doc and do the, what did she call it, balanced diet, which sounds...
I like the ice cream cleanse myself.
You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have problems with dairy, and I think regular ice cream would give them a cleanse if they ate 5 pints a day.
Well, I've even covered in What's Out with Hannah before. The guy who ate nothing but McDonald's for a month.
Oh, yeah, and he
lost weight.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of his experiment was just trying to prove that portion control matters way more than what you're eating.
Yeah,
and so
greasy fast food will chase you back to the bathroom in a hurry too. So
that is true. So he would split, McDonald's meals in half basically and eat on one meal for a couple meals.
I mean, I've been splitting my fast food meals in half, not because of the calories, but because of the cost. I'm like, I can't pay $20 for one meal. I got to spread this around. All right. Okay. We are going to need to go to a break, but we are going to come back. And does birth order matter? Are you youngest or are you oldest? I have a very strong opinion about this as the oldest daughter. So we're going to get into that debate at 8:10. And then also, we are doing winners and losers. We haven't even mentioned it yet. We need your help. Text us 573-874-9390.
hunch. And why is it older sister? When someone tells me they have an older sister, I'm like, oh, so you have a drill sergeant. You have a drill sergeant. You have a that's going to tell you exactly how it is. She's going to give it to you right how it is. If you two get in a fight, she's going to say, stay mad or heal. Stay mad or heal. This is not my problem. Stay mad or heal. She's going to beat the shit out of anyone who wrongs you. She's going to create like a 10-day itinerary for you to go on a trip. She's going to do it all. Like when I hear someone has an older sister, I'm like, that's powerful.
So much love to all the fellow older sisters out there. I heard that last night, and my siblings and I and my husband have a constant debate going on because, of course, my sister is the younger sister, and my husband is the youngest of 4. And they are like,
man,
older sisters are so mean, and we got picked on and all of that. So we constantly have this birth order. But I find myself connecting. So my husband's has an oldest sister, and we connect really well. Love her. Shout out to Amy. But I find myself connecting with other older sisters because it's just a vibe.
I saw a video the other day, and it was basically a God bless the women who are oldest siblings that married youngest siblings.
Yes.
Because it's just basically you adopt another child.
Well, and we have this ongoing debate because when we were first married, my husband said, I can't believe your parents ask you questions about like what to do, where to eat, like what you want to do. And they actually care what your answer is. Because as the youngest child, I got told that I wasn't in charge of Boo.
Aww.
And, which I mean, I see that. And it's kind of the dynamic for the parents, right? Like my oldest got a lot more input than my third. John, where are you at in the birth order?
Right in the middle, number 1 and only.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. You're an only
how about
child.
that?
That's weird.
That makes me feel
broke the mold and all that, right?
That makes me feel better because I was feeling bad that I had never asked you that before, and I'm like, maybe he just doesn't have any siblings.
But see, what's interesting is if you're an only child, you don't give off older sibling energy. You have to have a second one. Like only children are in a category of their own. Now, Hannah, you're oldest, right?
I am.
So you're the boss. Now, you're not quite old enough to do the vacation itinerary, but I am the vacation itinerary lady in my family, 100%.
Yeah, and I relate to the, later in the audio, it talks about kind of being a mama bear, but like a sister bear sounds weird. But it's like, I can make fun of my brother, but if you do, I'm going to be mad at you, right?
Right. And then it goes on and it talks about if you bring someone home, like when your little brother first brings someone home, it's like you don't have to worry about mom and dad. You have to worry about older sister and pass her test. And 100%, I think that's correct. So let us know. Do you guys fall into these? I mean, I think birth order is more important than, what's your sign or, what do we do here? The gold, yellow. I think birth order matters way more.
Yeah, I think it shapes how
sure
you
does
grow
in a
up.
family dynamic, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think so. And then how you interact with maybe your coworkers or your spouse if you're in different birth orders. I don't think if you were two oldest that maybe that wouldn't go as well either because you've got two people who are probably a bit bossy.
Well, Sandy on the texter at 874-9390, she's saying that she is the oldest in her family and her husband is also the oldest in his family.
I wonder how that works out. I think Sandy's probably still the boss, having met her last night. Shout out to Sandy. Also, text us your winners and losers. We're going to do that at 8:30. So you can text us at 573-874-9390. And we did hear, Randy brought it up last night, the more localer, the more importanter. And that not only applies to politics, but also we love your local winners and losers. So let us know who you want to shout out. We had some news-making things happening when we were at Lincoln Days last night. It was a super fun night. We got to meet a lot of you. But there were some noteworthy people there and some noteworthy people who were not there. So we heard early. So Taylor Burks was not there, but we knew he was not coming,
right?
Because he had announced yesterday, "Hey, I'm going to bow out of this congressional race, leaving Kurt Schaefer, the only mid-Missouri candidate." Brian, what else? What else was newsworthy to you last night?
I think a couple of things, and I'll have stories over the next several days, obviously, about it, but. In no particular order, I thought General Bailey, the keynote address, didn't really talk about he referenced it, but really didn't talk about it, the Columbia LGBTQ issues. But I was watching the audience, and he got a lot of ovations. I saw a lot of smiles. I like to look at body language. And not all of them, not going to mention everybody's name, but not everybody got great reaction from the audience. He certainly did. I thought General Bailey is very comfortable holding that microphone like that, talking. I mean, I think he's in his element doing that. Two other things that stuck out to me, Stephanie, from last night. Lisa Meyer is running for the Columbia City Council. I can't tell you how many calls. We get more calls on this show about people frustrated with the Columbia City Council than we do about President Biden. At least that's my experience. And she basically said only 12% of you being the audience and the voters of this city, Columbia, are voting in municipal elections. And she turned it around. She said, if you're not voting, you are part of the problem. I thought, and that got a very positive reaction. I thought last but not least, and you mentioned somebody not being there, Caleb Browden was not there. I don't know. He may have had a prior commitment, but he was certainly scheduled to be on the agenda, and I'm not sure. Maybe he can tell us. He could have had something come up. I don't know.
They said that he was dealing with a personal matter. Okay. Is all that they said.
And again, he has children. So I don't know. And if he wants to share more, he can. But no, I totally get that. He's got a couple kids, and he may have had an issue with them. It's fine. Mary Elizabeth Coleman's speech last night, that was totally off the cuff. No notes. She came in late because she was down in Mary's County at her event. But I have never heard this said before. She said that when she sponsored the abortion bill to ban abortions in Missouri, and I remember people were protesting at the Capitol that day. I was there when they passed the bill. She said she had death threats, that she had people had to have the police station outside her home in her kids' school. So she said and I noticed this when she filed, they listed as a Jefferson City, Missouri P.O. box. She apparently is registered with Ashcroft's office for that safe address because she's had death threats. I thought that was, and she said the American left they're coming for conservatives. I mean, she basically said that. She also, Stephanie, gave her personal cell phone to the audience. I've been doing this 30 years. I have never, ever seen that done before. I'm not going to give the number on the air, folks, but she gave it to the people in the audience. And she said that she's always going to be accessible. And Stephanie, you caught it too. She said, if you hear something about me that doesn't sound right, call or text. I don't know what she's referring to, but clearly something's bothering her. But I thought that was powerful. In the audience, it resonated. It clearly did. It resonated. Will she win? I think being from Arnold may be the biggest. It's going to be harder for her because of name ID in this area. But the audience seemed to like that. They did.
Something else that was interesting and related to a story that Randy was telling us this week on the show about how he was at the exclusive members only grocery store here in town. And there was a lady trying to get him to sign an abortion petition. Mm-hmm. And she had her facts wrong. And, whether she was lying or she was just genuinely misinformed, we don't know. But Tim Greinke last night at Boone County Lincoln Days, he's a former Centralia mayor. Mm-hmm. He actually said that if you encounter one of these folks trying to get you to sign the abortion petition, you can call, was it Missouri Right to Life? Mm-hmm. And they will actually send a representative from Missouri Right to Life to the same location that this other petition is being pushed, to basically have both sides of the coin there. I thought that was interesting.
To tell the truth.
Yeah.
To tell the truth. Yeah. So, and it was nice to see Tim. And of course, I know he was wearing red last night. He's probably joining us wearing red today. But Brian, I know I have heard from other state representatives outside of the pro-life context and other contexts that have also needed security. So maybe we dig down, and I could give you some names. Maybe we dig down into that further because that's tough to hear.
Well, and I want to be very fair about that. That's what no doubt. I mean, Mary Elizabeth Coleman said it there were hundreds of people there that heard it. So obviously, and a lot of reporters in the room as well. So, and to be fair, there have been Democrats I don't know about any recently, but Robin Wright Jones, when she was in the Senate, she had concerns about guns, and I do know that she did have some threats at her office. I know that for a fact. I do know as well that there was a pro-choice Republican. Her name was Betty Sims. She's passed away now. She was from Ladue. Our listeners in Jeff City will remember her. And Governor Carnahan and her didn't agree on much, but they agreed on pro-choice. She supported she supported the governor's veto. She was a Republican, by the way, of partial birth abortion. I know she had some death threats, and for a while, the Highway Patrol actually had to protect her 24/7. So it's just it's a shame, and I'm not going to say anything. I mean, people know this. It's a shame that anyone in office has to be threatened. If you don't like what they're doing, folks, you vote them out.
You can vote them out.
You can vote them out, but this idea and threatening Mary Elizabeth Coleman's kids that they had to police at the school, that's the first I heard of that. That's terrible.
But I'm not surprised to hear that what was resonating with people was accessibility. And we heard that a little bit. I mean, we heard it from Mary Elizabeth Coleman. We heard it from Kurt Schaefer, and I think he took a dig at the other candidates and said, I'm the only person who actually lives in the district. I'm right here. We heard from Mark Alford's representative, hey, we're having Mondays with Mark. Mark's going to be, Congressman's going to be here Monday. If you have an issue, stop by, let's help you. But when we're talking about, it's easy to think of your congressman as that person or woman, as that person on TV in DC, but so much of their work is constituent services,
right.
And being accessible is so important. And so we kind of heard that touched on by all of the candidates. And I think it really matters, if you need a passport, if you're having trouble with, federal government assistance or whatever, having that accessibility to your congressperson is really important.
It is. There's no doubt about it. Columbia has not had a congressperson that lives in Columbia since Kenny Hulshoff. And Kenny Hulshoff, of course, and Renee, of course, a former talk show host, is his wife. And, he left office in 2008, ran for governor. So it's been some time. Kurt Schaefer, very dynamic, all those candidates are very good and very comfortable speaking. I thought what Kurt Schaefer said, the last point I make that really was incredible. He left office in 2017. The state budget was 27, I believe he said 27 billion. It's now $52 billion. It is doubled since 2017. That is just that. Now, a lot of that's federal money. Now, a lot of it is, but the bottom line is it's still part of the budget. That I thought was powerful, and
and of course,
it was really a lot of people. There were nowhere to sit. I had to stand next to the wall.
Yeah, people were, there were a lot of people standing up. Well, and the other newsmaker last night, and you can always count on Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich to make a little bit of news. She went last, and she said she is going to have an announcement, I think she said in about 3 weeks. So where she's headed next, we're going to have to wait and find out, but I'm sure you'll be on it, Brian.
I am and I don't know this. I didn't get a chance to talk to her. My gut feeling, this is my gut feeling, is she may challenge Stephen Weber for the Senate, and that
back and forth. So basically holding steady. But let's see. S&P closed up 0.52%, NASDAQ up 0.9%, Dow closed up 0.12%. Technology and communication services were leading the gainers, with health yesterday the biggest loser. We need the doc in to ask him what was up with health yesterday. But this morning, because it is a Feel Good Friday, Hannah, we're going to talk about death.
Oh.
But this was your story, and I think we can turn it into a feel good story here. You turned me onto this article, and there is a new study out revealing only a third of Americans have a will. That's not very many. Do you have a will, Hannah? I suspect no.
I don't. There's not a whole lot for me to transfer over. I mean, I've got, transfer on death on my car title and my bank accounts. That's really about all I need.
And when I was your age, I think I was the same way. Now, caring.com is saying only 32% of Americans have a will, and that is the lowest rate in 4 years. Obviously, attorneys are very concerned about this, and they spend a lot of time in court afterwards if you don't have a will, trying to sort out your things. And you might be wondering to yourself, Stephanie, is this just an advertisement for you? No, I don't write wills. In fact, I hired an attorney in Jefferson City to do my will and my trust.
And you were saying you were surprised by some of the things you had to think through.
It's not an area I practice in. And, we talked a lot, and you put, in there, you can put a lot of different things, like how you want to be buried. And, I remember saying, just cremate me, just burn me. It freaks me out to be in a box. And then I think the attorney was like, well, are you sure that's okay with your religion? And I was like, I think so. But let me double check. And I remember sitting in his office calling my pastor being like, is this cool? Can I get cremated? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, okay, next question. And then there were lots of questions. So I think if you're in my age space, because you've got young kiddos,
yeah,
right? That's where it really gets hard.
Well,
and
what were you saying about the second wife?
There were lots of questions about the second wife. So I think the first question is, if you have young kiddos, it's who gets your kids and who gets, who is in charge of how the money gets sorted out. But then also, I think they said, does the second wife get a yacht? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, do you want your money if you die and your husband remarries? Do you want your money to kind of stay with your kids, or do you want the second wife to be able to, buy a yacht with it? And I was like, I've never thought about that before. But these are so there's lots of really interesting questions. And of course, would you require, if there's any money to be had, right? Eventually, what age should your kids get the money? What should they have to do before they get the money? Do they have to graduate from college? That used to kind of be the thing. Once they graduate from college, they get the money. And now I said, I don't want them to have to. I mean, maybe they go to cooking school. Maybe they go to tech school. I don't think a college degree is required.
John, do you have a will?
Yes,
Oh.
I guarantee it probably needs to be updated. And I know from personally, going through probate is no fun, as Steph can attest to.
It is tough, especially when, Helene segment. The doctor's in this morning. I heard it was great. Where can I find it? You can always go to our YouTube page or Facebook, and then you can also download our podcast. It will be posted later in the day. If you missed it, you can always catch it back. We are getting tons of texts for winners and losers this morning. You can nominate a winner or loser. Text us at 573-874-9390. All right, you know it's coming. It's posted to our Facebook page, but I'm out of the gate with the first winner of the week. Troop F of the Highway Patrol.
Which is our troop.
Yes. Posted a viral tweet yesterday and said, anyone missing their round bail? Trooper Isaiah, quote, doesn't miss leg day. LeMasters was able to move this traffic hazard off the roadway for you all in a day's work. He's got a sweet stash. He kind of like brushes his shoulder off after he completely squats this round bale. Now, I have seen a debate over how much these things actually weigh. Now, Hannah, you're an ag. How much do these hay bales weigh?
I'm kind of an ag, but I also have Google. And I was getting anything from 1,200 to 1,700 pounds. And this hay bale landed on the flat end, right? So it's not like he just rolled it out of the way. He had to basically pick it up and give it a nice little shove.
Lift. And he's lifting for a good probably 30 seconds.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I mean, this dude could drag a car. I mean, that is insane. The tweet is gone totally viral. It says, the one that I'm looking at, and I know it was posted multiple times, has 1.7 million views, 2,000 retweets. So if you haven't seen it, you can find it on our Facebook page, but it is impressive.
Yes,
yeah, it is. I totally agree with that. And the other thing he did there, and Hannah's absolutely amazing. Hannah's got some amazing stats about how heavy that is. But he also had to look a couple times to make sure there were no cars coming that would hit his cars. I mean, it is an example of the work that our first responders, our men and women, and law enforcement, our other first responders do. I mean, obviously, the guy probably could play offensive line for the New Orleans Saints. He's that strong. I wouldn't want to block him, but he's also a darn good officer.
Is the Bachelor franchise watching? I can see. Remember that guy? I couldn't see if he had a wedding ring on in the thing. Well, I can see them being like, "Hey, hay bale guy is the new Bachelor."
Exactly.
Farmer needs a mate.
Yeah, that's right.
To Brian's point, I say this all the time as the wife of a firefighter. I worry just as much when they're working a car accident on the side of the road as I do when he's in a burning building.
Yep.
Just because people don't pay attention when there's emergency vehicles on the side of the road. And even when they have all their lights on, horrible things still happen. And many first responders have lost their lives just trying to work a crash on the side of the road.
A good reminder to move over. We don't do as much advertising
and slow
about
down.
that
Yes,
as we used to, but that's a good reminder this morning. Brian, who do you have for winners and losers?
I've got 3 winners of the week, and I've got a loser of the week as well. A general, I'm not going to give a name, but
where's the breaking news sounder, Hannah?
Hang on, here it is.
Well, let's go with the loser of the week. I won't name names, but there are people on Twitter that are saying that Sam Graves voted against the money, the I-70 money, the $2.8 billion, and he voted against, and you can find it on Twitter who's saying it, about that he voted against the extra $90 million in grants. As I have reported, and I saw so many of people tweeting about it this week, some of the progressives, I actually checked with Chairman Smith to make sure I read the bill correctly, and I did. Folks, the bill that was voted on was not voted on in Congress. It was voted on in the state legislature. So, yeah, he didn't vote for it, but he didn't vote against it either. It was all state money. There is no federal money. And the $93 million grant is just that. It is a grant. He did not vote against it. So, just beware of what you see on Twitter, and we know you're going to get the facts from us, and we appreciate that. I've got 3 quick winners here. Number 1, Representative Jason Smith of Salem, from the South Missouri town of Salem. He was at the Capitol this week to file for re-election. I ran a few minutes behind because I got caught behind a funeral procession at St. Peter's, and he was kind enough. Actually, he delayed for a few moments addressing the Republicans in the Senate to wait for me to come up. So, again, thank him for that. And I wanted to respect obviously the people that were in that funeral procession. So thank you, Jason. Greg Razor is second. I've got a story coming up. He is a rising star in the Democratic Party, and he is from Kansas City. I got a story I'm working on about a guy named Chris Sifford. Folks, you do not want to miss the story I'm working on for early next week. John knows who Chris Sifford is.
Good friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you will not want to miss. I'm working on that. Greg Razor, I interviewed him at the Capitol, and he's a rising star. And last but not least, tomorrow is Star Wars night at Mizzou Arena. And I know that the Mizzou guys, Eli Drinkwitz listens to the show, and I know the Mizzou folks, a lot of them listen. I am hoping, and I don't know if I have any pull at all, I am hoping to see Stephanie and Hannah and John. I want to see Greedo. I want to see some stormtroopers, and there's a guy named Walrus Man. I have his action figure from 1977. I am hoping to finally meet Walrus Man tomorrow night, and Greedo as well. Greedo, by the way, wore green. He had a little gun on his, I believe he was left-handed. I still have his action figure, too. They are awesome.
I love
Didn't Han Solo shoot him?
I don't remember. He died a horrible death. I remember that. I can't.
All right, John, we got to break up this nerd fest. Who do you got for winners and losers?
I got two losers.
All right.
How about Missouri Democrats blocked a blacklisted state lawmaker from running for governor as a Dem? That was Representative Sarah Unsiker, kind of exiled from the party, kicked out of the caucus after she was seen on social media with a Holocaust denier. Mm-hmm. And getting beat up even after they announced an $800 million renovation at Arrowhead. Chiefs owner Clark Hunt admitted they were overdue. The NFL Players Association gives him an F- as owner of the franchise, right along with the locker room, training staff, and Helene, here's a job opportunity, the Chiefs nutritionist dietitian on their list as well.
Yes, I like that. We are getting your text. So Sarah said for winners of the week, Stevens College basketball coach Andre Bell and the Stevens Stars basketball team. Randy texted us, loser of the week is Olivia Rodrigo, who we've talked about on the show before. She's a pop singer. He said she held a concert to raise money for abortion initiatives and Planned Parenthood. So 2 thumbs down to Olivia Rodrigo this morning. All right, Hannah, who you got?
All right, I got a couple unnamed winners. Or no, I know the name of one of them. I remember. We're a little sleepy this morning after last night's Boone County Lincoln Days. I met Nathan at Lincoln Days last night, and he is a friend of Trey Fauché, who's with the Mizzou College Republicans, and around my age, and he said he enjoyed listening to the show. And I get a little nerdy when I meet someone my age that says that they listen to the show, right? We get excited. It's the next generation up and coming that has already figured out that Wake Up Mid Missouri is pretty cool. Another winner of the week is, of course, my beloved Centralia Panthers basketball. They played the Pintos earlier this week, and the girls pulled out the win. And so they play again tonight in Centralia against a conference matchup, which is South Shelby. The girls previously had not won a district title in basketball since 1992, as one of the Pinto fans reminded me before the game started Monday night. And it's pretty exciting. The boys are still in it as well. They're still playing in their district tournament, but both teams are still alive at this point in the season, and it's really exciting for Centralia. I know there's lots of local teams that are in the same boat, so excited for some high school basketball over the next week or so.
That's very exciting. Well, we've also we're getting some more texts. Is this AI painting, Hannah?
Yeah, AI painting. We got a text 874-9390. AI painting is being nominated as winner of the week because they came in first place at a convention in Orlando in the exterior projects category. Now, the most impressive part of this is there were over 700 companies at this convention, and AI Painting Plus in Columbia, Missouri took home first place. So congrats to the AI Painting Plus team.
Very good. Now, I also want to nominate the Missouri Republican Party. John, you brought up Sarah Unsiker, but I guess there was a candidate that ran for governor, and people that filed for governor under the Republican Party brand. And people started pointing out yesterday that apparently he has ties. He's potentially allegedly a white supremacist, has ties with the KKK, and the Missouri GOP and many of our statewide elected officials came out pretty quickly and said, we are going to work to get that R from behind his name. We were unaware of these affiliations, and that doesn't represent the Republican brand, and there's no room in our party for overt racism. So I would nominate the Missouri GOP for their quick response as a winner of the week. The other person I want to nominate is, I know the News Tribune recently put out this article, and it was about Patty Morrow. John, you know Patty Morrow? She
Yes.
was so she was my teacher when I was at elementary school, and they just talk about her teaching career, and then also she's been a docent at the mansion for many years. And I know when they do a really fun program at the mansion called Manners at the Mansion, and little ones can go and learn the proper techniques and everything. And I know one of my kids had the opportunity to then learn manners from her at the mansion. And so it was nice to see her profiled. My sister also had her, but just a lifetime of service to the community, and nice to see her highlighted. So.
I agree with that. I mean, I definitely know who she is, and that the issue of manners is so important, and she's done a great job. The kids, and all of us, adults probably could learn a lot from going to that. One other quick note that we have to thank everyone: the Radiothon last week. The generosity, $225,000. Some could only donate $1. Some could only donate 50 cents. We had one person donate 50 cents. But I thank everyone. And also, did you know, Stephanie, the inmates at the Boonville Correctional Center donated, Hannah knows this, they donated $500, the inmates. Now, I worked at DOC. I don't know what they make now. It's not much because they have jobs, some of them do. It was $750 a month when I worked there in 2006 to 8. So they don't make very much. And those are hard jobs. They work in factories and stuff. So for those inmates, and I don't know how many of them put that $500 together, that is incredible. I work there, and I will tell you this: a lot of them have kids, and they are very protective of children. The inmates are very John knows that, and the corrections officers are nodding their heads. You don't mess with kids, and they really, and they listen. They listen to the show, and actually told, I guess, got word to Randy that some were crying listening. So that's pretty powerful.
Cool.
Yeah, they
That's
are
great.
for sure winners of the week, and it's just so heartwarming to see all members of our community and tons of people across mid-Missouri coming together for kids. What a great radiothon we had last week. So nominations to the Wake Up Fam for your support and to our wonderful community. Now we're going to come back with some leftovers. We had a lot of breaking news last night at Boone County Lincoln Days, but there's some other things we haven't gotten to yet today, so we'll do that update from Jefferson City, D.C., or the State House, we've got you covered. Scott Fawn will be joining us, Mayor Ron Fitzwater, as well as Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer. So stick with us on Monday. But now we're doing some leftovers. Hannah, you got any leftovers in your fridge?
Not so much a leftover, but I'm in another pickle like I was on Monday.
Uh-oh. You need some help from the fam?
Maybe just some thoughts and prayers.
Okay.
Of course, I'm going to the Centralia girls basketball game tonight. And because we had a late night last night.
Go Panthers.
Yes, go Panthers. Playing the South Shelby Cardinals, which is part of the issue, okay? Because we stayed at the hotel last night, because we had a late night, I packed a bag. And, of course, on Fridays, we wear red to remember everyone deployed. So I wasn't thinking, I just threw the first red shirt I could find in my duffel bag. But I'm wearing a Pintos shirt this morning. And after all of the fun I had poking the bear on Monday about the Pintos versus Panthers game, if I show up to the game tonight in Centralia wearing a Pintos shirt,
You'll be kicked out.
I will never hear the end of it.
And you have a way of just manifesting things here at the station. You talk about things and people just bring you things. So maybe if someone has a spare Panthers shirt around.
Well,
There you go.
I hope she's not listening, but when I get to Centralia, I'm going to go raid my mom's closet. So
That's a good plan, I think.
thoughts and prayers that I at least find a black or gray T-shirt. You know, that would be better than the bright red I'm wearing that not only is Pintos, but is South Shelby Cardinals colors. So,
Oops.
yeah.
Well, John, what's in your fridge?
Well, we've solved the question for Brian. Who shot first in Star Wars, Han Solo or bounty hunter Greedo? In the original Star Wars, if you remember, Han just whips out his blaster and shoots him. But when George Lucas remastered it again, Greedo shoots first, and then Han, in self-defense, gets to kill him.
You all are talking so far over my head. I am not
Yeah,
a
I got
Star Wars
nothing.
person, but
nerd alert.
But I know there are a lot of people out there who are right there with you. And so Brian told us tomorrow at Mizzou Arena, it's Star Wars Day. Is that right?
Wow. How about that?
All right. And if you don't have plans yet tomorrow, it is caucus day here at the county level in Missouri. If you don't know
Which
where to
at times could be much like the bar scene at Star Wars, I would think,
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
There's been some excitement in the past. So if you don't know where to go or what to do, there's lots of information. You can go to your local clerk's website or visit, if you're wanting to caucus with the conservatives, mogop.org to get some info on where and when and what you need to do for tomorrow to participate. Hannah, anything else? So you're cheering tonight, and what level are we in?
So if
Is this the
there's
Semis, right?
Yeah, there's 8 teams still in it right now. If they win tonight, they'll be in the Final Four for the
All right.
state tournament, and they'll get to go to Joplin. Did we decide?
It's a big,
Springfield,
Sounds right,
Joplin.
yeah.
it's a big night for that. And I know.
Oh,
I think,
show.
All right. So also we will be updating you next week on all of the Trump news. I know there's more and more coming out about the dates and the deadlines for his trials, and I know there's going to be some further updates today on timing, so we'll have that update for you on Monday. I know the Navalny funeral, I think, is today, and there is a lot of consternation over that happening, so we'll have the full breakdown on that. And then Elon Musk is suing OpenAI and Sam Altman. We've heard updates from Altman that he wants to invest a whole bunch of money in that. So, and we're still getting a lot of AI hallucinations that I'm seeing as people use Google's AI tool. So we'll be talking more about that. And then, of course, giving you a full update on what's happening in the State House. We heard from Representative Griffith earlier that we've only got 2 weeks left before legislative spring break. So I anticipate a lot of action there in the next